shit. Whoa, we have a podcast. Oh. Hello, everybody, and welcome yet once again to another episode of Going Over. I'm your neighborhood friendly coach, trainer, promoter, 43-year-old professional wrestler, Zack Primetime Reeb, and I am joined alongside my podcast partner for the evening, the Rocking Bull, Paul Isadora. Paul, the coffee was getting cold and the production standpoint was starting to get treacherous, as Wade Barrett would so eloquently say.
That's it, man. I don't know what was going on, man. It's just like you said, it's this million or billion-dollar industry. Can't get things to work for some reason. Well, you know what? I think this is the first issue that we've had. And this is the 30th episode. Craziness. I was just listening back to episode number 1. I had a long scruffy beard. I was just like, what was I doing? But who knows? It was pretty bad, yeah.
It was bad there for a while. I was
Well,
doing
you remember the day that it got trimmed up and you were like, oh, you got your teeth whitened, got a haircut.
Billy Goat. You look like a big Billy Goat. I felt like I was doing a podcast with a 7-foot homeless man. Me and the homeless man on the podcast. You know, the funny thing about this podcast is for the last, week, I've had these young Mormon girls. Yeah, it almost sounds like a porno clip's about to start here. I had these young Mormon girls coming by, and they came by, and I was outside, and I was on the phone, and I'm like, nah, now's not a good time. And then I came back around, and my dad actually had awakened me and said, hey, those Mormon girls are out there again. Are you ready to talk to them? And I'm like, why do they keep coming back? So I went out and talked to them, and I said, you know what? And I was thinking back with Josh Edlow, and I said, you know what? Interesting story from these 19-year-old Mormon girls from Utah that the Lord has sent them to walk around in my neighborhood door to door to talk to people about their religion. And I said, hey, how about we get you guys on the podcast? So don't worry on Sunday about a wrestling guest. I got a couple Mormon girls that are coming on the podcast. I thought it would be interesting, and I thought it's going to definitely spike our view. No, I'm just messing. The story's true, but we're not going to have Mormon girls on the podcast, everybody. We got topics we got to talk about. And I had so many today. There's so many I wanted to talk about, but I ended up in a conversation this morning with my buddy Sin, and I just started talking about some stuff in wrestling. We always talk about you got to look the part, right? We got to look the part here. You got to eat right. You got to change your diet. You get some guys that come out here and go, yeah, I know I got to lose weight. I'm going to go work on my cardio. And it's like, well, cardio ain't going to do shit if the kitchen ain't different. If you, and I said it to you a couple times today, and I thought this one was funny. If you are in your car and you are driving up to a menu, and you're talking to someone through the menu to order your food, and then you drive forward and somebody hands you your food in a paper bag, okay? If they hand it to you in a paper bag at window number 2 where you pay, and now you have a bag full of food that you can either eat in your car or take home or somewhere to eat, you are not eating in the right place. And I was talking to my coach the other day too, and it was somebody I wanted to shoot some big props out to, man, is Brian Cage. And I wanted to shoot Cage some props because, God, now what has it been? It's been 20 to 21 years that this guy has religiously looked like a fucking gladiator. He has looked like the premier stud in professional wrestling. This guy is always in shape. I remember when he first started, God, 20 plus years ago, we were in a car and the car smelled like shit because this guy had food prep and he had fish with vegetables and they weren't even, it wasn't even hot. And I know a lot of times that's my problem when it comes to food prep is I don't want to eat the food cold. And this guy for 21 years has been the very embodiment and inspiration for everybody on eating right, the gym, staying healthy, what it takes to look the part of a professional wrestler. And you talk about that, very important. Let's get your thoughts right now because I know you and Adam and Lester, and there was a big crew of guys. You guys were called the Body Guy Crew, I think it was the BGC when you had worked in PCW before too. So let me know a little bit on that before we get started on the actual topic. Body Guy Crew, are you a body guy? I hear that all the time.
Right. So I was never a body guy. I would never put myself in that category. Those guys were the Adam, Ryan McQueen, Wolfgang, Steicher, Carl Fredericks. Those were those guys, right? And then they would hook up with the Brian Cages, the Will Hobbs, the Alexander Hammerstones. Those guys would all get together because those dudes were like over the top, right? So I would go to the gym. I would eat fairly good. I'm just a big body, so for me, it was just being huge, right? Just being a big guy, having a lot of muscle mass. But for me, it was never being shredded like those guys. So, and those guys were just a different breed, right? Those guys were, just like you're saying with Brian Cage, meal prepping. They were going to the gym right before they left for to go on the road. If they had an opportunity, they'd hit the gym in the town that they got to, go eat something good or eat some of their meal prep, things like that. But it was overwhelming for me, right? So it's, and it's definitely, it sounds like an excuse because I would say it to everybody like, hey, you got to make it a priority. So that's definitely something that those guys did, right? It was just a religion, right? It was like on this day, we're doing all of our meal prep for the week. And then we're going to take this cooler of food on the road, right? So you don't have to stop at those places that you're talking about. You're never driving up to a window and getting a meal in a bag. You're always going somewhere. It might be these guys might be going to a convenience store to use their microwave just to heat up their stuff that they prepped,
Yeah.
and grab another water or something along those lines. So those guys, man, it was a different breed, but it was when those guys walked into the building, it was completely different, right? Those guys were different than everybody else. And, it had to do with that workout regimen, the diet, but it also had to do with how hard they worked at the craft as well. It wasn't just those things, right? So we talk about, you could be a great worker, you could be in good cardiovascular shape, but that's that extra thing, right? The Brian Cage factor is the extra thing where it's you you're working hard, you're working out hard, and if you remember, Brian Cage and even Alexander Hammerstone have done multiple bodybuilding shows while they're full-time wrestlers as well, which is just, if being in really good shape and being a wrestler isn't enough, the discipline that it takes to get your body down to single digit body fat numbers for a bodybuilding show and be so disciplined where you're cutting out water and all these different things and still wrestling at that high level is just a completely different level. So those guys are just amazing. And for you to say about Brian Cage, man, definitely always been in shape, continually get bigger. And you think about when those guys get that big, the flexibility goes away. the things they can do goes away, right? But for Brian Cage, man, it's just been continuously being able to do acrobatic things, things that a guy his size should not be able to do, right? So that's amazing in itself, right there. So, I mean, that's kind of my 2 cents. Just watching this stuff, I don't want to say from the outside, but kind of watching it and participating a little bit, but not to the level that these guys were doing it, man. These guys were just on another level.
Well, I was big into it, and I remember when I got big into it, I did stop drinking. And John Anderson, Roland Alexander, had pulled me into the office, and he had messaged me, and he said, "Hey, I got to talk to you about something." And he said, "I got a guy that I need you to get ready. He's already booked." He said he's already booked in AAA in Mexico. He's already booked in Japan. I need you to get him ready. I need you to coach him. I need you to train him. You'll probably be moving in with him too. And I said, "Well, all right, what do you got?" And he said, "Well, we need to get him ready in 3 months." And I scoffed at it, man. I laughed. I said, "Hey, no way. You ain't getting nobody ready in 3 months." And he said, "No, this guy's different." And it ended up being the world's strongest man, John Anderson. And John and his wife, oh God, Terry was her name. Cool chick, man. And John was just a cool dude. And they monitored my food and everything. So they gave me all that nutritional stuff. And I always was in good athletic shape. But now I'm running around with this 8-pack at some points, and I'm shredded to the gills. And it was tough, but it became a way of life. And I always say routine and repetition breeds discipline, and you need all those things. You need a routine every day, because I know if I fall off my routine, I don't know when I'm getting back on that motherfucker. You know what I mean? And I see so many guys we talked about. You talked about Alexander Hammerstone. You talked about Will Hobbs. You talked about Brian Cage. All these, when I first met Cage, he was a buck 85. When I first met Will, he was tall, slender guy. He couldn't have weighed 180 pounds. Hammerstone, I've seen the pictures, man. I've been friends with him on Facebook a long time. He wasn't a big guy. Wise guy, Dave Dutra, just all these count. Watching Arsonist make a complete body change. If you look at WWE, Gunther, geez, he was a fat pig, and now he's in this incredible shape. Gunther was a guy who made a transformation. Randy Orton, John Cena, The Rock. I mean, I don't care if these guys are pumping in a little extra, if you know what I'm saying. These guys are maintaining it. And I think that's the misconception that testosterone and steroids and HGH, I think that's the misconception people give. They're like, oh, these guys are cheating. And it's like, no, they're not cheating. Because the more chemical, the more extra you pump into your body, the harder you have to work out, the better you have to eat, all these things. One thing I learned is once you get in shape, it's a lot harder to get out of shape once you get in it. So if you're interested in the pizza and the Chinese food, which I am, if you're interested in those things, if you get in immaculate shape, if you go through that period of not cheating, because it's called a strict diet. The reason it's called a strict diet and not just changing your eating habits is because you're strict. You're drinking water. There's certain things you're not. There's certain liquids you're not putting in. You're staying away from that diet soda or that sugar-free Coke, Pepsi, whatever product it is. It's a strict, very strict diet. And it's one of those things, it's the cosmetic. And Mike Shoop, Mike Shoop's another guy who's put since I've known him, he was, Brian was the original guy that was working with him. And Mike has always been about his body, man. I told Mike one time, you're going to have to eat 5,000 calories a day and bulked up. And the guy went out and did it. So when you get these guys, that's part of it. And I look at right now, when we look at the industry, Jason Xavier has a pretty good physique locally. Illumide looks like he's chiseled out of stone, a Nigerian gladiator. I seen the guy on a video doing like 10, 15 muscle ups, man. It's like, oh my God, like I get 20 pull-ups, but now you're doing 20 muscle ups and an extra dip when you pull yourself all the way up there. Just incredible athletes. I was talking with him today on the phone, and it's like his athleticism, his look, everything about him. in PCW, we haven't put him in there with anybody, any major player who's already over. And the guy, just on his appearance and athleticism, has gotten himself over just by that. So that look, you know, we were talking on the phone today and I said, hey, hold on. There's a guy walking around and he's doing door to door. And I swear to God, he's got 24-inch biceps and looks like The Rock. And you were on speakerphone with me when I gave this guy a flyer. And I'm thinking in my head, like, he's walking around my neighborhood doing door to door. This guy could sell the house out on how he looked today. Well, you're doing door to door, must be local. How about you come do some professional wrestling? And I think the only mistake I made, I gave him all the information, but I didn't give the guy I should have been like, hey, here, let's exchange numbers right now. Because even if you don't ever come to the wrestling or come train, I'd like to talk to you about why you look like this. You might have some tips and pointers for you. So we talk about that body, that physique, and we go back, and I always see guys that start out in this business and they look pretty good, and then you see them 5-10 years later, and you can just, whether they're still doing it or not, or they're saying they care about it, you can just tell they've given up.
Absolutely. And I think like I think sometimes when I look at myself in the mirror, I'm frustrated as well. Like I used to be this guy that was in pretty good shape, and then I feel like it's fallen off slowly but surely. And obviously I know age has a part in it, but you want to try to overcome it by having a good diet and getting in the gym and doing the right thing. And I think a major piece that's missing is the wrestling training for me. So it's getting back in the ring with these guys that we're training with, and getting a sweat as well, right? Getting back into that wrestling shape. And I feel like when I was in wrestling shape, that was always when I was in the best physical looking shape as well. Not just being able to go in the ring, but looking like I could like I was something to deal with in the ring. So I think that's a big part for me as well. And I know you get in the ring with your guys, so that's probably a missing piece for me. And getting the diet kind of dialed in, getting into the gym. So all those things I think is I'm definitely victim as well. Just like a lot of the guys that we talk about that have gone from being in pretty good shape to kind of falling off, and now you see them wrestling with a belly, and then you start thinking about you're legitimately concerned about their health, right? So, and I think about that as well, right? I've got these kids that I want to be around for, right? I want to be a grandpa at one stage, and be able to play with grandkids and things like that. So, taking care of your body, it becomes increasingly important as we get older as well. So, definitely something to keep focused on, and for the younger guys that are in shape right now, it's just another kind of reminder to keep in shape, right? Keep at it. Just the maintenance, right? Keep the maintenance going, keep the discipline, keep going with it, and hopefully that's you get into a longer wrestling career and you're able to do this at a high level, and that's kind of what we all want, right? We see a lot of these guys that are making a living at this, and some of them are 30s, early 40s, right? So I think you look at your prime, and you used to think that was in your 20s. You're 30, you're old now. But I feel like with the way that nutrition and the way that medicine and things like that have evolved, you have that opportunity to kind of push that prime into your 30s and maybe 40s as well. So definitely pushing yourself to do that, and getting in good shape and being able to do this for a long period of time. That's key, especially with the guys that we're trying to reach.
Well, you said it right there, the reach. It's an informative podcast. It's trying to help younger wrestlers or guys that have been around a little while that haven't had the experience or gone to some of the places that we've gone and experienced. And wrestling was a different time. How do I want to be remembered? That was a big thing. My dad said to me the other day, he said, hey, you're going to have to figure out if you want to eat healthy or if you want to eat to be happy. And that really hit me hard because he knows that even at 43, I say it all the time. I go, oh, 43-year-old still professional wrestling, which I am. But it's like I looked at him and I said, man, I can't do drugs. I can't drink alcohol. I can't eat Chinese food and pizza and hamburgers and all that shit. And it's like, man, this sucks. No, it doesn't suck. You said it right there. It ain't just about wrestling. It ain't just about how we look in the mirror and our appearance and if we're happy with it. It's about our health, man. It's about moving forward into the future of this thing. But I sat there and I was just like, man, what's my legacy? How do I want to be remembered? And even though I can still go out here and get the job done, I know that my cardio has been shit. I know that my belly has been hanging over my little tights in my trunks a little bit. And because I go back and watch the footage, I go back, I get a little blown out there. My belly bloats a little bit. The spandex rides down, and and I'm saying enough is enough for me. That was it. 2 weeks ago, enough was enough, and I tried to, like, I have these tools, but like I said, it's about the routine, it's about the repetition, it's about the discipline. Getting up in the morning and saying, "Nah, I'm gonna make this good stuff. I'm gonna meal prep this. I got the bag, I got the ice blocks, I got the product, I make the product." You don't know how many times a week on a Monday when the trash goes out, I'll clean out the fridge and I'll be like, "Oh, I went and bought these blueberries and these strawberries. I went and bought these vegetables. I went and bought all this stuff that I knew and needed and had a plan to do, and I messed it up." And we talk about that, the in-ring training and all that. A lot of these guys I'm looking at nowadays, when we were doing the prospect shows, we had a guy come in, I believe it was on the first one, and his name was Matthias. And the guy was tall, he was thick, he was in shape, and I had a good conversation with him a little while back. He's out of San Diego, and we were talking about that like the body. Like he was talking about the school down in San Diego. I don't know if he goes to B-Boys or what it is, but shout out to B-Boy if he listens. Hopefully he does. But he was talking about he doesn't get it either. He tells all the students all the time how important the body is. Working out, the physicality, the exercise, the eating right. And we get into this business, and like I was just saying right here, I know you're 49, I'm 42. It's like I had to tell myself a couple weeks ago, like really, just like I did when I went through this recovery. I had to really tell myself, like, hey man, if you're from what you've done in the past to where you are now and everything that you've gone through and overcome, if you're still going to go out there and wrestle, you got to make sure you look like a wrestler. You got to make sure your health and your cardio is up, because I don't want to be remembered as the 43 to 45-year-old wrestler whose belly is hanging over his spandex, who can't attack the ropes at a hard pace, that can't take the good bumps remaining in my body. I know cardio, I'm blown up. I can't be remembered. Prospects gave me prospects, the Ugly Dojo matinee shows, going to some next level shows and checking out companies around here. There's not a lot of guys that look like that, and they're young too. It's like, man, you're just starting your career. So if I can give you any bit of advice, which you've probably heard from a million guys before, if Brian Cage was sitting right here in this scene with me right here, and I was like, hey Brian, what do you want to tell these guys? Clearly it's get your ass in shape. Get in shape. That was what Roland preached the most. And it was tough listening to him tell people because he was so out of shape. He's like, hey, don't eat the cheeseburger. I've literally sat with Roland Alexander talking to new students, and students are looking over at me like future aspiring wrestlers are listening to this short, fat guy wearing Crocs when they weren't even popular, going, hey, man, not to eat the Burger Kings and this and that. And he's giving them diet advice. And these guys are looking over at me like, is this motherfucker serious right now? He's telling me he looks like he's about to die from a health issue. And he's sitting here telling me, give me your money and I'm going to give you nutritional advice along the way. But just so important, man. So important how you want to be remembered. Like, you're 49. What, when is Big Paul going to go, okay, I'm coming back, whether it's one match or some more matches, but as is right now, would you feel comfortable walking back into the ring?
Well, I think like from just like you said, like I can still get it done, but as far as the physical look, it's like you look back at what you looked like at a certain point, and you want to get back to that. So I'm definitely not in the shape that I would want to be in on a regular basis. So that's something just like you said, man. You got to look in the mirror and you got to say, hey, what do you want? What do you want people to remember you as? I like the idea of remembering me as 300 pounds, slim waist, huge shoulders, big arms, um, just an ass kicking machine type of look versus big belly, 350 pounds, not in great shape, still can move around, but I like the way more athletic, trimmer, no belly, feel like I could do whatever I want. Like if I wanted to dive over the top rope to the floor, I would feel very comfortable doing that at a lighter weight and a more athletic and bouncy. So that's definitely what I look at when I say this is what I want to look like when I come back. And this is what I want to be remembered as. I want to go out in that shape and go, okay, you could have stuck around because you look like you're in great shape and things like that, and then you just go, hey, I'm just done with it, right? I just want to help the next generation or whatever it is, a show here or there, but not doing it on a regular basis. So I
Well,
think that's
here
kind
it
of
is. Here it is. Who's listening? Who is listening to us on this podcast? Because right now we're going to do the going over NorCal Wrestling weight loss muscle gain challenge. And it's going to seem like it's going to be more of a weight loss challenge. And right now I'm calling out some people. I got the diet plan. It's right out of the John Anderson and his wife's Terry's book. It works. I'm already down 10 pounds from the last 2 weeks. I'm in the gym. I got a ways to go. I got a couple months to go on this thing, but I'm very strict. I'm calling you out, Paul. I'm calling out Boyce LeGrand. I'm calling out the Big Ugly. I'm calling out Sir Samurai. I'm calling out Scoot Robertson. I'm calling out every single person in the wrestling industry. If you're watching this, I'm calling you out. If you are not in shape and you are watching this or you want to get back, I'm calling you out, Dreamy Drew. You know what I mean? I'm calling you out. I remember guys when they were in a little bit better shape and they've let themselves. I'm calling you out, Rick Luxury. I've had enough of watching you in that singlet. Where's Bobby Hart right now to tell you you look like a little potato with some legs sticking out? You know what I mean? And this isn't to diss anybody. I think this is a good thing. It's the health issue. Let's get in shape. Let's get back for ourselves, most importantly. But we're in this business. We say we care. I had a Sin. I'm calling you out, Sin. You most
oh,
importantly, Jay Sin.
I was gonna say you are forgetting the monster Sin in this
Tag
mix.
him.
That's
Tag
it,
him
man.
that I called his ass out right now, right here. Because that's the thing. We're in this business, right? We want to do it. You said it earlier. Man, the hardest thing to do is when you're on the road. I was on the road in Japan for 10 straight days in a row, and your body's beat up, you're tired. The last thing you want to do, you're not getting much sleep. How do you eat properly when you're on the road? You know what I mean? What if you don't have time to meal prep? How do you eat properly? Where do you go? How do you pull this off? You got to give props to these guys, man, that are doing this. And like Brian Cage, hey, all day long, 21 plus. I don't know I know it's been over 2 decades. This guy has been taking care of his body and working out and doing that. And that's impressive, man. For the people out there that still are taking care of it, because I fell off. I fell off. And it's one of those things. There's so many things to this business. I used to, we'll get into the topic later, but I've had guys back in the day, Dustin York and Mr. Spiffy. I mean, my promo, I've always been able to talk, but my promo needed help. And I found guys along the way that could help me do that. I'll always give credit to this guy, Dustin York, for spending a lot of time with me on my promo to make it better, because he's an actor and he's been in classes and he's got all these methods and he's really smart about stuff. And I saw that. And he really helped me get good at learning how to cut promos in front of the camera and all this stuff. So shout out to him. And I mean, we see all these people that say, I want to do this. I want a career in this. And there's so many people out there at the PC, working with guys like Shawn Michaels and CM Punk and Triple H. And they're working with the top guys and they're coming out of these NIL programs. And man, we talked about that access part. And there's just so much to just the cosmetic of the way you look in this thing, man. Just so much, Paul.
Absolutely. So I feel like we've gone on quite the tangent here on being in shape, but I know you have a topic that you wanted to talk about, something besides getting in shape. So what was that topic? You were so fired up today.
Well, the topic,
you're like, call me right now. I need to do a podcast. I'm a little busy right now. I'll give you a call right back. Right? And you're like, come on, man, call me up. I'm ready to do this. So what was that topic? What was
did
the
I
topic?
Did I say what the topic
I don't
was?
remember what it was, but you're like, I
This
got
was
some
it.
gold. Right?
This
I
was
don't know, man. I
this
thought it
was
was
it. This was
what it was. I thought it was some gold.
this
Like,
is
hey,
gold.
oh, why?
This
I understand that, but I'm just saying. I thought there was something else.
No, this was it. This was that was my topic. We just got into the, halfway through right here, so we're halfway home. It's as we get older, man, like how do I want to be remembered in professional wrestling? Because age is going to come in. The back's going to go, the knees are going to, I can't jump as high as I used to jump. So, how do we want to be remembered when we near the end, or we get close to that final stage on the finish line before we cross it onto something else? So I just wanted to stress the importance for myself, for other people out there, the health. We got to have health. If we don't have our health, we have nothing. Without our health, we have nothing. That's the first and foremost, the thing, and the body and the diet. And we're not saying you got to be jacked up, but you can just be in shape, be healthy, be able to go out there and not have to risk a whole lot if you're still going to do this, especially at our age. But that's one thing I wanted to, that was the topic. It wasn't just the diet. It's also the training. Training's another big part of this too. So I know these guys are out here putting in the work, training in different places, but you got to go out and you got to advance. You got to look out there and you got to see who's been successful, who's put out successful product. And I don't always look at successful product like, oh, this guy got signed to WWE, so that's the standard. He went through this school, so that makes him the standard bearer. I always look at like just solid talent. You know what I mean? Who's solid talent out there, and who's somebody that can take? Because I'm more of a finishing coach. You know what I mean? I'm more of a finishing coach. I'm more the type of guy that I like to work. And I always said it about Adam Thornstowe. I said Thornstowe isn't really, he doesn't like to train guys from the ground up. He likes it when they get on the road and they get a little deeper. He likes to guide them out there. I'm different. So instead of being like guiding them out there, I like to guide them at the training school when they've had more time to go through. Because I can train you from the ground up, but I get impatient. I'm like, all right, you did. Let's practice what you preach, but I'm an impatient guy as well. So that's why I have guys underneath me that I like to have them work with everybody, the new students moving along, because they're more patient on the basics and the fundamentals of something, and they're less experienced than me. So I got a lot I want to throw at people. I want to overwhelm people. So, you know, the importance in moving forward of, you say you want to be a professional wrestler, right? Where are you at as far as the training goes?
Absolutely, and I think that triggered the one of the topics that we kind of were glossing over today, and that was when someone starts training and they talk about how much they want to do this, and then you realize when you look back, you go, well, this person's been training with me for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year, right? But they're not as far as you think they should be in a year, and you start picking that apart. We talked about 288 hours being kind of our mark, right? We kind of figured like that's about how many hours it's going to take, because you hear so many people say it's going to take you this many months. And I literally just had a conversation with a guy last night or the night before. As soon as we put out our thing about the second session of school coming April 1st, right? Somebody called me up and was asking me like how long it's going to take, and that triggered that conversation, right? I was like, you can get this done fairly quickly if you're here 4 days a week, right? But if you're not, if you're only coming twice, once, only a couple times a month, then that 288 hours, man, that is going to take you forever to finish up, right? And we just had somebody come back after not being with us since the show that you were at. So, and it was like, man, you almost have to reteach them everything. Like you haven't been here for 3 weeks, and now it's like you almost got to kind of replay everything, right? Say, all right, we got to start from uh, part number one, and make sure you a refresher, right? If you haven't been there for a while. So it's a little bit frustrating with that, because you have people that have a lot of potential, and then all of a sudden they fall off, right? And then it's just you have all this catch up to do. So you're like, all right, so you're already this many hours in, but now we're backtracking and we're redoing stuff you've already done as kind of a refresher, so you can get back to where you were 3 weeks ago. So I think that was something that you were talking about, is the frustration of that, where you have some people on both sides of that fence, where you have some people that are like, they weren't there for a while, and then now they're starting to come consistently, and you go, see, this is what coming consistently will do for you. See how much better you've gotten over the past month, right? And you can see that big difference versus somebody that hasn't been there for multiple weeks in a row, or a month in a row or whatever, and you go, see how far you've fallen off just with that, right? And I think that feeds right into the whole workout thing, right? We talk about muscle memory, and I think when you start getting back into it, then your muscles remember it, and then you start getting those gains again. But how quickly, me being a perfect example, how quickly it falls off when you stop working out for a certain amount of time. You're just like, man, I lost size, I got really out of shape. Just it seems like it happened overnight, but when you look at it, you're like, oh well, it's because I haven't been in the gym in 3 or 4 months or whatever it is. So I think that's important to think about as well. You
Well,
talk
you
about
say
some of these.
muscle.
Yeah, good.
Oh, sorry, Paul. You say muscle memory, and we have that wrestling muscle memory. So to us, it's like riding a bike. I just got to go back and get in ring shape. Undertaker's coming back for a match. He's just got to get back in ring. Rock's got to get ready for WrestleMania. He's got to get in ring shape. But man, these guys don't understand how much of a problem they are for guys like us who are trying to run a class, and we're trying to move people along, and we're always going back. You called it a refresher. we're always going back and we're always working on the lockup. We're always working on the headlock, wrestling on the mat. We're always working on how hard we hit the corner so it's not a dead hit or whatever. But we're always working on these things, even if we've been doing it for 20, 30 years. It don't matter. You don't move along from that stuff. But it's not like riding a bike for a new student because they don't know it. So they don't realize, hey, I had a rough week, right? I was about to use a smart ass face. Oh, I had a rough week. Or I've been gone a month or two, or sometimes 6 months. Now I'm back and ready to go. Okay, cool. Well, you're going to start back over here. I don't care what you thought you learned in that month or 2 months you were there. Taking someone that's come from from somewhere else. I hate that. I hate when you have a student who worked at another place and then they come train with you, because my God, it becomes more work to beat bad habits off of them. And we talk about how there's different ways to do stuff. I bring guys in all the time. I had Vince DeMarco come in a month or so back. Let him do his thing. Sat there, watched it all. I was a fan for 3 hours and it was great. And a lot of the stuff he was doing, it was similar, but it was different to the way I would do something. But that's okay, because there's different things. Maybe this guy is picking this up your way. And I know my coach always gets on to me and says, man, you just made a bunch of primetime clones. These guys are wrestling just like you. They don't need to be wrestling like you, because that's how you wrestle. That's your thing. I'm influencing them on that. But you said it, man. You said somebody just came back to class. I mean, you guys have only been running for going on 3 months now. So you're at a point where it should be, because you're talking about April, and we got another one coming up in April. So you're talking about, okay, who's going on to what we would say advanced beginners, and who's going to stay in that next class? And you really have to look at it. And I'm looking at it too, and I'm going, I don't know. A lot of these guys that I got, uh, have to run back around and work with the new class. I
Right.
think they should.
Absolutely. So, and you made a really good point with, we haven't been running this class that long, right? So, for somebody that's only been training since January and you miss a couple weeks, that's so much more detrimental than if you had been training for a year and you missed a couple weeks, right? Then now you've got 11 months under your belt and you miss a couple weeks, versus now you've got 8 weeks under your belt and you miss 3 weeks. That's so much bigger of a deal, based off of the time that you've trained, right? So, like you said, Ben, it's like you haven't even had enough reps to get good at things in those 8 weeks, right? So that's what it is. And then now you're backtracking to try to get back where you were 3 weeks ago, after you kind of restart. So, and obviously I try to make it known, like, life gets in the way. I understand that, but that's why we have 4 classes a week. And we talked about that with Rick, how he was talking about the only day that he wasn't in that building was on, what was it, on Fridays or something along those lines. It's like, you're trying to do what you think is the right thing, right? I'm trying to give these guys as much opportunity as I can, but unfortunately, people don't look at it the same way that we do. I look at, taking advantage of every single opportunity that I had, even if it took going on my lunch break to get a little extra ring time. So I guess it's just, and I look at this in basketball as well, right? Not everyone has the exact same work ethic that I had in basketball, right? I knew that the destination that I wanted to get to, and I think when I first started wrestling, I knew the destination that I wanted to get to, and that's making a living off of pro wrestling. So you work as hard as you think it's going to take to get to that goal. And me always being kind of the guy that's, I don't think I'm ever good enough at anything. So I think that I have to put in those extra reps. And obviously for me in both of these cases, it's been a huge advantage that I don't think I'm doing enough, so I do so much more, getting that many more repetitions at whatever it is, basketball stuff or wrestling stuff. It's a huge advantage. And when I see people that don't have that same vision, work ethic, they don't see it as important as I always thought it was. Then it's frustrating, right? If somebody doesn't have the same drive as you do, then you're like, what's wrong with you? So that's kind of the mindset that I've been having, and I have to kind of maybe, scale it back just a little bit and realize that not everyone does have the same aspirations that I had when I first started, right? Not everyone goes, "Hey, I'm going to make it to the WWE or AEW or wherever it is that you're going to be able to make a living off of this pro wrestling."
Well, they should, because they're stepping in to a very dangerous situation. This is dangerous. Hitting that mat is dangerous. Running those ropes are dangerous. Hitting that corner is dangerous. If I have 3 bumps I'm taking in a match and I only take 2 of those bumps well, that probably that 1 bump I didn't take well is going to be the difference maker of if I walk out of being injured and not being able to go to work on Monday. But we look at this trend. Everybody's replaceable, whether you're at McDonald's or you're in the WWE. Everybody is replaceable, man. And that was the topic, actually, right there. We'll
I
get
know,
back
yeah,
to that. We'll get
right,
back to that because there was so much that led into this topic. So this is going to have to be a 2-parter. But you're replaceable, dude. You're replaceable. I'm replaceable. You know where we're not replaceable? We're not replaceable because I'm not replaceable running my company. You're not replaceable running your company. But I mean, excuse me, I told you the story. I went down to APW, man. I brought down Brian Cage, AJ Kirsch, Scotty Aboud, Oliver John, Rick Luxury, opened up the doors with Roland so a lot of these guys in NorCal could get back in there. And I did a lot, and then I walked away. I was one of the guys that got Marcus Mack in the industry, which created Pink Mink Inc. Yes, you heard it here first. I brought Marcus Mack in and created Pink Mink Inc. because of his mink coat with his Halliburton briefcase, and we wore the colors of Rick Luxury. But you know what? When I left APW after all the great things, I thought I did so many great things. I was this egotistical savior, Zack Reeb, this unbelievable APW can't survive without Zack down here doing this. No, I'm a dipshit. APW not only survived, it thrived. Roland Alexander passed away. Gabe Ramirez moved on to Pro Wrestling Revolution. Marcus Mack took the industry over. He's bringing in Cody Rhodes. He's bringing in all the big stars. Hell, he didn't even run the Cow Palace once. He ran the damn thing twice. And Marcus Mack, who was a fan, a lifelong fan, and took it over. And Zack Reeb is Mr. Primetime MPT is no longer a part of APW, and this promotion is thriving without me. So, guys, you got to work hard. You have to. As you get older, that's why we're politicking. That's why there's older guys out there politicking because they're trying to use what they had before because they don't want to lose their spot, man. Who wants to lose their spot? Who wants to admit that they've gotten too old, that they've lost a step, that their metabolism, the thyroid or the metabolism issue is taking over? I just don't got what it takes to lift the weights no more. I can't get out there and grind, find the time to grind. And it's like, you're replaceable. And that goes
right.
for anybody out there.
Absolutely. And I was just having a conversation with someone the other night about this. It's like, oh, hey, what happened to this guy? It's like, oh, well, he couldn't make it on this show. The guy that filled in for him did a great job. So I'm going to continue to use that guy. Right. And it's like, it's almost like, you just forget about people. Right. It's just like out of sight, out of mind. So if someone doesn't show up, they don't make a booking for whatever reason. And gosh, man, we've talked about this so much, right? It's always like it's the unwritten rule. You bring your gear bag, right? So that's exactly what happens. Somebody calls and say, "Hey, I got a flat tire," or whatever it is, and they can't make the show. But somebody else shows up in a car with another wrestler, and next thing you know, they're on the card, and then they do a great job, and it's like, well, fuck, man, I'm gonna get this guy to come back, right? And then next thing you know, like this guy is now in some sort of program, and now you're pushing this guy, and it's like, well, what happened to that other guy? I was like, well, shit, I don't know. It just this guy fell into place and did a great job, and like you said, everybody is replaceable. So
Mm.
you know, it's just when people ask about a wrestler and you go, oh shit, man, I haven't even thought about him. I've just been so focused on what we're doing and moving forward with the guys that are here right now. So it is absolutely true, man, and I think it's in every facet, not just pro wrestling. You think about any sport, the next guy is chomping at the bit, right? The next guy wants to get an opportunity. So and we tell people when you get the opportunity, you better take advantage of it, right? This is
Mhm.
make a good first impression. We had a whole podcast about that. So, this goes to show that you make a good first impression. And next thing you know, now you're on the next show and the next show and the next show, and you're consistent. Now you've earned yourself a spot, right? Now you're on this roster. I hear Ugly talk about it all the time that he's got his guys that are quote unquote figured in, right? And it's the guys that are reliable, the guys that he trusts, the guys that are going to be there, right? And I remember back in the day talking about why people put the title on themselves in their own company. And my answer was never because they're trying to put themselves over. My answer was always because they can rely on themselves. They
Yep.
know they're going to be at their own show. So the most reliable person to put the belt on is the guy that's going to be there every single time, right? You don't have to worry about that guy no showing because he's running the damn company.
If I would have gave a shit in reality about what anybody had to say about me, I would have broke down 25 years ago in this wrestling business because people have been talking shit from MySpace to AOL Messenger to Facebook to whatever damn, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Now, people have been talking shit since day one. And I always give people, especially guys from, latter days of PCW, they go, man, you let me go. What about everything I did for you? And this isn't no one specific. If you think I'm talking about you, maybe we are talking about you. We always talk about that. But people go, well, what about everything I did for you or the company back then? And I go, well, it's not about what you did for me then. It's about what you're doing for yourself now. What are you doing for this company? What are you doing for yourself now? Because damn, man, I could bring that up. I mean, I even did for a while. I was bitter for a while. I was like, man, everything I did at All Pro Wrestling, everything I did for that company, I could have gone somewhere else. Could have gone to Iron. I could have done something else, but I gave everything I had to this company. But also that company gave it back to me. So as you get older and you look back on these things, you're like, oh, Gabe and Shannon Ramirez took me in. They took me under their wing. They did a lot for me. They did a lot for me. Expensive trips, flights, all kinds of things, man. Roland Alexander did a lot for me. I did stuff for them too. I did, but they did a lot for me. And I wouldn't have knowledge in the DNA and the identity and the connections and the experiences, worldwide experiences. I wouldn't have these things without these guys. So instead of being ungrateful for the time that we had back then, now as a more mature adult, I go, oh man, you know, thank God for that. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm not doing nothing for Gabe Ramirez right now and Gabe and Shannon. I'm not doing nothing for when All Pro Wrestling was running. I wasn't doing nothing for those guys. So they have to move on. They have to find that next piece of the puzzle because I'm not here anymore. And I'm not interested in being here, like being present like I was present back in the day. And we just sit here so much, and these guys say, man, do it for yourself. You have to do this for yourself. So if you're out there, I don't care if you're in a tag team or a trios combination, whatever it is, you got to do it for yourself. You got to get up. You know what you got to do. The same guys that have been around, they call them vets. I hate the term. All the vets. Yeah, no, just the guys that have been around the business a while that know some things. You know what I mean? They know a couple things that we don't know, and there's a lot that we don't know that we could learn from somebody else. But we're telling you the format. Show the fuck up to train. Get through your training. Continue to train. Get better. Get live reps. Okay, I've gotten my live reps. Okay, now everybody says, no, it's not okay to go work for free. Yeah, it is. It's perfectly fine. People do it all the time when they want to get in dentistry and doctors and fly fucking airplanes. It's fine. If you're going to do an Ugly Dojo matinee show, if you're going to go work up at East Bay Pro, if you're going to work in Next Level, it's fine to go do those shows for free or no money at all starting out, so you can get some live experience and some reps. But once you get good, once you can get in the ring with the Boyce LeGrand, a Big Paul, a Big Ugly, a Sir Samurai, once you can get in the ring, Brick Luxury, and you can listen through matches, then guess what? Now we know, okay, this guy's working on his body. He can listen and get through these matches with us. We like working with him. Now we move up in pay. It's not a long period of time, but yes, it's definitely okay when you're starting out to go work for somebody so that you can get a spot on a show. You just said it. I had a guy, he couldn't make it. We brought some guys up. The guy came in, he did a really good job. I'm going to use this guy. Why am I going to use this guy? Because he was good. He didn't give me no headaches. He's reliable. Oh, guess what? He asked if he could come back again. So, problem solved. This other guy's a problem. This guy's not a problem. Why the fuck? Because this indie wrestling shit, making money and doing all this is so hard. Why would I want a problem? Why would I want an egomaniac in the locker room that's going, oh, you know what I want? This is what I want. I want this. I want that. I don't want to end my career somewhere else. I want this championship. I want this match. Hey, man, there's a lot of I's and me's in this conversation. We need some we's and some us's. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm at the point now with my company. There's so much young talent coming up. I don't give a shit about some guy who's been around for a while. And it's not that I don't give a shit about him as a human being. And that's where the disconnect comes in this I'm butthurt about the wrestling business shit. It's not that I don't care about you as a friend or a human being. It's just you're not here working. These guys are. So my job is a wrestling school. I'm supposed to put product out. I'm supposed to get guys going to the next level. If you're hanging around my fucking school for 3 years and you ain't going nowhere, dude, just get the fuck out of here. We'll go have lunch sometime. I don't need you sitting in my school fucking just hanging out and doing something for 3 or 4 years. You're doing nothing for yourself or for the wrestling company.
Absolutely, man. I think sometimes it's probably hard to hear that you're moving on, right? I did so much for you. I did so much for your company. I helped you out or whatever. And it's very much what have you done for me lately type of mentality, and bottom line, I just talked to you about this today. Like, you want to surround yourself with people that you enjoy being around. So if the people that you're, that are complaining are not people that you enjoy being around, that's the reason that they're not around your company anymore. Because you don't want to be around them. You don't want to deal with the headaches. You don't want to hear them bitch and complain. You just want to, do the right thing. You want to have a fun time. You want to put out a good product. You want to be profitable. All of these things, all the positives is what you want. You don't want all the negativity.
This shit's stressful, man, and it costs us a lot of money and a lot of our personal time. Why would I want to deal with your bullshit? Paul, we just flew through this. You asked what the topic was. Damn, the topic is going to continue. I'm Zack Primetime Reeb. That's the wrecking ball. I'm not even going to point this time because I might get it wrong again and it becomes a funny thing. Where did he go? Ladies and gentlemen, get your shit straight. Start eating right. I'm talking to myself too. Start eating right. Get your ass in there and train. Shut the fuck up and open up your ears. And man, just try to get good at this professional wrestling thing. Quit complaining. Just all the little things. I could be very redundant here. I might use an extra 20 seconds just to tell it, say it one more time. Here we go again. This is what you're gonna hear the most in this wrestling business, whether you like it or not. Shut your fucking mouth and open up your ears. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going over.